I've noticed a lot of people over the past week or so online who seem to be very confused for some strange reason about the situation between Kell Brook and his mandatory challenger Errol Spence with regards to the purse split. Upon hearing that the split is likely to be 75-25 in Brook's favour, they have started to say that Kell Brook is a coward, that he's lowballing Errol Spence deliberately because he don't want the fight. He's pricing himself out. How dare he offer Spence such a small percentage when he's such a high caliber challenger? They're saying that Kell Brook and Eddie Hearn are greedy, so on and so forth. Again, this is surprising to me to hear people say all this type of stuff. They obviously don't understand how purse splits are determined under the IBF rules or under the rules of any sanctioning body for that matter. Now, most of my subscribers do understand this, but for those of you who don't, let me explain why Kell Brook and Eddie Hearn are not trying to avoid the Errol Spence fight because of this purse split, and that actually they've got nothing to do with the purse split. If you haven't already read it on screen, as you can see, this is an excerpt from the IBF rules. I'll leave a link in the description below. You can go read it for yourselves. 100% legit. It's the official IBF website. Scroll down to this particular section, 10E, disbursement of bid proceeds. As you can see, it says the champion will receive 75% and the challenger will receive 25% of total amount of the bid. If the offer is for a vacant title, each boxer will receive 50% of the total amount bid. The percentage splits for elimination bouts and box-offs are governed by Rule 9D. In a bout between a champion and a challenger ranked number 3 or below, the champion shall receive 85% and the challenger will receive 15% of the total amount of the bid. Notwithstanding the purse bid percentages described herein, if the circumstances so warrant, the championship chairman or the president may make a recommendation to the board of directors that a different purse split be employed. Any variation in the purse bid percentages from those set forth in this rule must be approved by a majority vote of the board of directors. So there you go. It's extremely clear. The IBF are the ones who set the purse split. It's got nothing to do with Eddie Hearn or Kell Brook. Pretty much everybody know. I don't want to say everybody, but most of us hardcore fans have known that the purse split for mandatory fights is predetermined and has been for as long as I can remember. And the IBF, everybody knows the IBF is 25%, 75% in the champion's favor when it comes to mandatory challenges. And as you can see there in the IBF rules, the purse split is even smaller for voluntary defenses. Now, it does say that there are certain circumstances where the IBF, not the champion's representatives, the IBF themselves can decide whether they want to change the split amount. Now, there was an incident in the past where I believe it was when Vladimir Klitschko fought Kubrat Pulev. Pulev was his IBF challenger. Pulev actually got less than 25% as the mandatory challenger because Vladimir went to the IBF and managed to convince them somehow to give him more than 75%, which I found extraordinary and sad and whatnot, but it is what it is. The IBF do have provisions for that within their rules, as you can see. And there are situations where the challenger can also go to the IBF and request a larger percentage. But it's got nothing to do with the champion's representatives. It's all down to the IBF, whether they want to grant it or not. So everybody calling Kell Brook a coward and this, that, and the other, and he should pay him more. I don't know where you people are going with this. Have you read the IBF rules? Now, it is true that Hearn and Brook are in negotiation at the moment with Spence's people. If Hearn and Brook, before the purse bid kicks in, because obviously they've got a certain amount of time now to negotiate and then there's a deadline. And if they haven't reached an agreement by the deadline, purse bids kick in. And that's when that split of 75-25 in Brook's favor will also be implemented. So before that, while they're in this negotiation period, if Brook and Hearn wanted to, I guess they could come to an agreement with Spence and offer him more than 25%. But I've never heard of a mandatory challenger getting that for as long as I can remember, unless he's some type of superstar like a Pacquiao or something like that, and he's fighting a champion who is either on the same level as him or maybe lower level as him in terms of market value. Then yeah, in those situations, they might reach an agreement before it goes to a purse bid and the challenger gets a lot more than the 25%. But here you've got Errol Spence, who, yeah, he's making his way in the world, but he's just a standard mandatory challenger, really. He's not a superstar or anything like that. So I don't see any reason why Kell Brook and Eddie Hearn would be going out of their way to pay this guy more than the IBF percentage for a mandatory challenger, which is 25%. I don't see why they would go out of their way to pay this guy more. It don't seem to make any sense to me. In most situations, in my experience anyway, the majority of situations when it comes to mandatory challengers, they normally go to purse bids more often than not. Yeah, you may have noticed this as well. Purse bids are more often than not what happens. And in which case, the IBF have sorted out the percentages. So there you go, people. In case there was any confusion, hopefully I've cleared it up for you. It is what it is. Drop your comments in the comment section below. Let me know how you feel. It's your boy Hatman, I'm out.